Evening, everyone. Welcome to our Ignited event here at WELSTech Conference 2015. I'm Bob Martins. I hail from all the way back in New Ulm, Minnesota, but I went a circuitous route to get here and went up north and almost hit a bear and then came back down. That's the first time I've actually seen a bear in the wild. I was able to hit it with my car. I thought, not a great way to start a relationship with a bear, but that's okay. So just to lay some ground rules to start, these 7 lovely people, I think it's 7, are going to be put under extreme pressure. They have 20 slides that are going to advance automatically every 20 seconds. I think if I'm reading this correctly, it's Pechakucha style. I'm probably going to say that totally wrong. Thank you. And so they'll have that. I think it's Sally corrected us, 6 minutes and 40 seconds to do their entire presentation, and then we're going to kick them off the stage, bring up another vendor to do a giveaway, and then we'll bring the next victim up. We're going to start with our first person, Stephen Wall. Man, no introduction, mainly because he plans to introduce himself. So please welcome Stephen Wall.
Can you hear me all right? Okay, so I think I'm ready to go, so I hit play or start? Spacebar, okay. So my name is Stephen Wall, and my topic today is tablet-powered PowerPoint in worship, or anywhere else, really. So I'm going to explain to you what I do in Juneau, Alaska. Over the next 380 seconds, I'm going to show you what you can do, how you can do it as well, and how easy and inexpensive it is. As I said, my name is Stephen Wall. I graduated seminary in 2004. 3 days later, I got married to my beautiful wife, Kelly, and since then, God has blessed us with 4 kids, 2 strapping boys and 2 adorable girls. My first call was to La Crescent in Hoka, Minnesota, and about 3.5 years ago, I was called and accepted the call to Christ Lutheran Church in Juneau, Alaska, which you see here on the screen. Beautiful place, Juneau, Alaska. Of course, it is very remote. Juneau, Alaska is, I think, the largest city in the U.S. that is not connected to the road system. There's no road in or out of Juneau, Alaska. Fun fact about Alaska, it is both the westernmost state of the U.S. and the northernmost state in the U.S., but because it crosses over the date line, the Aleutian chain, it is also the easternmost state in the United States. Juneau, Alaska is isolated. We are 500 miles away from the nearest WELS congregation, which would be in the Anchorage area, 1,000 miles to Seattle. So this whole technology thing is hugely valuable to me to stay connected to brothers and sisters in ministry and in faith. And I really treasure this opportunity to be here with you today. Now, about 2 years ago, I started trying to do PowerPoint in worship. I'd set up the laptop and I'd have a cord running up to the television, and I decided it just didn't work very well. I mean, it looks clunky, it looks bad in worship, and there must be a better way. And I had this new tablet that I had purchased, a $500 Samsung Note, and I figured there's got to be a way. And I figured out a way. And it took me a while, but it works. And so you need basically 3 things to make it work as far as hardware. The first thing, you need a TV or a projector that has an HDMI input. I'm going to assume most of you have that. I think all new televisions come with that installed automatically. The second thing you're going to need is a little device that fits in the palm of your hand. It's called the Samsung All-Share Cast Hub. I think they even make a smaller one that just plugs into a USB port, but that's all you need. And that plugs into your TV, and it allows your tablet to communicate with the hub, which goes to the TV. Third thing you'll need is, I think, a Samsung tablet. I don't know if other tablets would work, but make sure it has the the screen mirroring capability. Not all of the Samsung tablets have that. The lower end ones don't. What I have is Tab 4, the 8-inch. I don't think the 7-inch has it because it's a cheaper version, but the 8-inch or the larger Tab 4 has the capability to do the screen mirroring. You put those two together on Amazon. I looked this up about 5 days ago, and comes out to $242 if you get the refurbished version of the tab. So steps that you have to do to make this work. Download the free Microsoft app for the tablet. I was really happy when Microsoft finally put out PowerPoint for the tablet, because before that I was using other presentation software, and all the formatting wouldn't carry over, so I had to be really careful not to over-format anything. Second step, of course, put together your PowerPoint. If you don't have PowerPoint, or if you're still going to the store to buy PowerPoint, you're a nonprofit. Go check out TechSoup.org. $32 for the whole Office suite. $32. Check that out. So put together your PowerPoint like you would any other presentation. Save it. This is what I do. I save it to Dropbox or whatever your favorite cloud storage spot is. If you don't have wireless in your sanctuary, then you'll have to do it the old-fashioned way, like we did back in way back in the year 2000, where we had to plug into our computers to put anything on a device. Fourth thing, of course, you open it up on your tablet and go ahead and get the PowerPoint started on your tablet. That way, once you finally do connect to the television, the first thing that they're going to see is that first opening page of your PowerPoint instead of the file folders that you're going through to open it. And so that's the fifth step, is to sync your tablet. You just pull down the screen at the top and get into the menus and select screen mirroring from that top menu. Very simple. It connects, easy to do, but I've learned a few things after doing it for several years, so you can learn from my mistakes. I learned the hard way. Don't forget to recharge your tablet. It's really easy to think, oh, it's not on because the screen's blank, but it's still in standby mode, so you stick it in the drawer, and if it's not plugged in, a week later the battery will be dead. It's no fun dragging an extension cord around the sanctuary with you. Tip 2, I learned this, it worked great for a couple weeks, and then about the 4th week, it started disconnecting like every 2 minutes. It's hard to get through worship that way. And I figured out if you hit the reset button on there, that helps. And actually what I do now is I just unplug it. Why power it all week long when I only use it Sunday mornings? So I just unplug it and that works fine. Third thing, turn off those applications. When I first started, I was using a personal tablet, and so I take it home during the week. My wife would use it, my kids would play games on it. And I was just waiting for that day when some pop-up would show up and say, you need to feed your virtual pet or something like that. It never happened, but it's something to keep in mind. Yeah, if you're using it for worship, you are in control of the PowerPoint. So if you put a hymn or something up on there, and then you turn to your hymnal and start singing through, and you get to the 2nd or 3rd verse, and then you realize you've left everybody behind because you weren't swiping the screen, you kind of have to use the tablet if you're using that for worship, so you're not leaving people behind. So that's my presentation. If you have any questions for me, feel free to grab me afterward. Like I said, it's incredibly easy to do, under $250. You can have PowerPoint running easily, wirelessly in your sanctuary, just like I was doing here, holding it. It's very unobtrusive. Swipe of a finger, and that's it.
Thank you very much. Next up on our list for this evening is Mr. Seth Fitzsimmons. He served in Hope Christian School for a year, 9 years in Norfolk, and I guess now he's moving back here to Wisconsin. I think Muskego's in Wisconsin, right?
Yep.
Okay, good. On to St. Paul and Muskego. I'm from Minnesota. I don't know what the place is like here, so go on.
All right. This one's going to be pretty interactive, and it comes to you from a school perspective. So I'm a principal, had been a principal at Nebraska. Here we go. So have your phones ready. I'm going to ask you to log on. I've created a CELI group here. The purpose of CELI is to create a mass texting service. Now, in school, I would give myself a C-, D+ in my tech skill and knowledge, so that's a disclaimer. I don't think I'm that great, but I think CELI is great. So here we go. Text, pretend 1 to this number, 23559, okay? Hurry up, you got 15 seconds. I put it on the next slide, okay? Pretend 1, 23559. There it is again, pretend 1, 23559. Pretend 1, 23559. It's going to ask you for your username, so go first name, last name, or it doesn't matter what you do, okay, because we're just setting it up. All of this you can access really easily on Selly's website. Super simple. We use it for our church choir. Our church choir director is actually here tonight, Scott Brown. He's one of our teachers. I don't know if it's the interface or not, but it's totally usable. Our parents like it because their numbers aren't shared with anybody else. It's totally private, okay? But they get this sweet emoticon. Is that the right word? Emoji? I don't even know. Okay, animal. So I think a bear was awesome. Okay, so you can make cells not just for your whole school or your whole choir, but I made one for my 7th and 8th grade class. And I could just push them, hey, don't forget to study your catechism memory work, you know? And then you get in the whole love and logic, should you remind them or should you not? I'm not going there. So all of this that you're seeing in front of you is just examples. You see my name right there, Mr. Fitz. So this is my St. Paul's 78, 7th and 8th grade class, okay? Totally free. If your school management software is able to do this already, I don't know. I'm not a techie, you know. When I submitted this, I said, I'm not a tech guy. If this is dumb, just reject it. But then they asked me to come, so I thought, okay. So if you're on a tight budget and you don't do a school management program, maybe this is for you. Happy parent stories. How many of you are in schools where you're like, I don't know if anybody ever reads the newsletter? Okay? If you don't have your hand up, you're lying. So we can program pockets of announcements. Hey, I want that one to go out this day, 2 days in advance. And I can just remind them again. And it's not annoying. The parents like it. That was the positive stories. The church choir, Scott, this is yours. Is it going, Scott? Great, okay. You're going to get a text at 8:48 tonight. I programmed it on July 10th to say hello from Nebraska. So if you're in and everything said, yeah, you just got approved, you're going to get a text there. There's 3 types of chat mode. Curated chat, open chat, or alert only. Look this all up. I'm not going to explain this now, okay? If you're interested in this, go find it, okay? Because I'm not going to read the screen. But there's 3 types of chat, so you can control that. And I got to remember what I did because I did this a month ago because we were moving. Oh yeah, open chat. Everyone can send messages to everyone. That's a nightmare, so you don't want to do that. I think the curated chat is what you want. That's where I'm the only one that can approve messages, and it's not laborious at all. Oh yeah, alert only. That's the one that we did. Okay. Good for gigantic groups like a whole school. My kids, I think I set them up as an open chat, so that, when they posted something, everybody saw it. So that was cool. They liked it, as well as the parents. And not only did I invite my kids, but I also invited their parents, if they wanted, Okay, so this is cool. You can schedule messages, and this is the one that you see there, Friday, July 10th is when I made it. 8:48 is when it's going to go. You're going to get that. That's my personal favorite. Okay. Can you see that? What is? But there's nothing up. What's that? Okay. Sorry, I forgot what that slide was. Here, this one, good. Okay, that was the fastest 20 seconds of my life. I bet you that was like 11:10 at night. And I forgot to delete that slide. I bet you that's totally what that was. I'm using Sally to help students with balancing chemical equations at work. I love it, ed tech, okay? Real teacher testimonial? Great, that slide's not working either. So here you can read it. Big fan of Sally for communicating with kids and parents. So this is all on their website. I just screenshot it, and I didn't spend a lot of time on this. It's just good. If you're a small school, tight budget or whatever, their website is super simple and extremely informative. So go to that website. It's going to be posted here again. Just a show of hands for me, how many of you already have a mass texting at your place? So maybe this was a dumb idea. I don't know. If you haven't, maybe this is the idea that's going to get you going, because we were a mid-sized school that did it, you know, and so it worked for us. All these resources are on their screen, on their website. Letter to the parents, copy, paste, insert your information. Our parents really enjoyed it, like I said. There's one more, I think there's one more slide coming that's really important. Is that it? Okay. There's going to also be a poll that comes at the end, okay? Because you can do polls as well with your kids. So you could, get parent feedback just by using that. So if you don't have one, Selly, free, it's great, super easy to use. That's my spiel.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have, and if I scroll down properly, that'd be nice, Dan Bushner, who likes to edit services and enjoys long walks on the sandy beaches. I might have actually added that second part myself, but I'm not 100% sure.
You did, but that's okay.
Okay, good.
Because I agree with that. Who doesn't like sandy beaches? All right. So my talk is called The Polish Connection. First, I have a question, though. Why are you here? You may think you know, but God may have an entirely different answer for you. God led me to this verse. It's Mark chapter 4, verses 26 and 27. And he said, "The kingdom of God is as if a man should scatter seed on the ground. He sleeps and rises night and day. The seed sprouts and grows. He knows not how." The seed was planted in me 30 years ago or so. I was an eager graduate from the University of Wisconsin at Oshkosh. I went seeking to become a recording studio guru. I graduated with a degree in audio-video production, and my first gig took me to Green Bay, Wisconsin. I was a production assistant at WFRV TV, and I loved it. I loved working with video. I had a lot more hair. But I love working behind the scenes at the newscast. I love editing. I love playing with audio. Only problem is I needed to get paid enough to eat and buy hair care product. So it was a sad day when I left because I didn't think I would ever get to play with video again. Now fast forward 25 years. My family and I moved to Waukesha, Wisconsin. We joined Trinity Lutheran. Turns out that they've had a video program for over 20 years. They find out, hey, Dan used to edit video. Come on up, show you the rig, show you how it all works. Well, I was hooked. All of a sudden, here I am, I'm doing video again. It's awesome. And about a year ago, I ended up taking over the program. And with that, I get to ask the question, do we know who's watching this? Do we know who our audience is? What are we going to do with it? To me, it was kind of like this line of monitors lined up in a field. They were nameless, faceless people. So how can we find out more about them? I know about the only piece of information we had about our audience was we did have a counter on the bottom of our web page for the digital outreach section, the Worship on Demand. But that also was housed in an area that had the sermons, and so when someone would click on that, were they downloading printed material or were they going and looking at our services? So next up, we were looking at doing downloads in WMV format, and our outreach team was trying to figure out how can we get the most people watching this? Were we leaving some people behind because was it viewable on a tablet? Is it viewable mobile? Well, then enter the scene another person with a media background. Alicia had worked with a local newspaper and specialized in digital content. So she comes along and says, well, why don't we try YouTube? And I'm thinking, YouTube? That was great for like looking up old Scooby-Doo episodes, but church services? Raggy? So, but we thought it over and we said, you know what, let's go ahead and do it. And our first test was this particular one right here. It was our 8th grade graduation. So this is built for YouTube. You know, grandma can't come, or Uncle Steve is overseas and isn't able to make it to the service. Here are the analytics for this particular service. You know, we had 34 people, 34 views with little or no promotion. Had taken a look at it. There were 38 minutes watched, but then the last number I love the best. Average view duration was over an hour. So they were watching the entire service. I mean, we had this host of information all of a sudden. And YouTube even tacked that little thing about the song, Remember Me, which is one of the songs sung during the service. I didn't do that at all. That's YouTube's doing. This is awesome. It's free, easy to use. Now we come to the Polish connection. Now I know what you're thinking. Poland, Wisconsin, right? Right? No. But no knock on Poland, Wisconsin. It has a main street. It has Eddie Whip's Bar and Grill. Great chicken on Sunday. Tell them Dan sent you. This story actually begins with an email to our church office. So this email comes in, and a gentleman says, I love what you're doing, but could you put the hymn numbers up, because I'm not really sure what you're singing, and I love the fact you're doing the services because there's no WELS churches in Krakow. Now I know what you're thinking, Krakow, Wisconsin. No, population is 354, but no, this was actually Krakow, Poland. So here, in an effort to reach our congregation digitally, we end up reaching out halfway across the world. I was floored. And so we took this information. It turns out that this gentleman had ended up going to Wisconsin Lutheran College, went back to Poland, and so now he's sharing our services with his friends and family in Poland. So what does this mean to you? I see this as a question to the answer why. Why did I go to school for audio-video production? A question my parents asked me several times. Why did we move to Waukesha? Why did we end up at Trinity Wells? Why did the gentleman go back to Poland and share all of our services? You know, maybe I'm a couple cards off. Maybe what you came here for, you know exactly what you're going to do with. You're going to these different classes. You're going to figure out what's going on. But I say, be open to the idea that a seed was planted and may take years or decades to actually sprout and grow. May God bless the rest of your conference.
Next up, we have a man who also does not need an introduction because he's going to introduce himself. Mr. Derek Roberts, take it away.
Testing? Okay. As he said, my name is Derek Roberts. I teach at St. John's on 68th and Forest Home in Milwaukee. Just got done with my first year, and I teach 5th grade as well as upper grade sciences. As you can kind of tell, this presentation is going to be aimed mostly at teachers, but also I could say it would apply for parents who have students who need help with science. Big problem with getting big activities, lab activities that would be for science class. The equipment. If you try to total up the price of all that equipment, you're going to be spending a pretty penny. Something like that would be a couple hundred, maybe a couple $1,000s easy for a little table like that. The other thing is time. Time is very precious as a teacher. So anything you can do to save on time and money, and PhET helps teachers do that. To my knowledge, it stands for Physics Education Technology. It comes out of the University of Boulder, Colorado, University of Colorado Boulder, and the best thing, of course, is it's free to use. Everything on that website is free to use. Let's talk about requirements and compatibility at first. All Windows, all Apple devices, that would be desktops and computers and laptops, full compatibility. Chromebooks, I have to put a caveat that it is partial compatibility. And I'll tell a little bit about the formats that is compatible with on the next slide. But Derek, what about tablets? We've got all these nice tablets at our school. Can we use that for PhET simulations? You can. They are the same compatibility as Chromebooks. The two things you want to look for on the PhET website for the compatibility with those platforms would be HTML5 and anything that runs Flash, any Flash simulations. If you go to the website, this is their sidebar. This is all the categories they cover: physics, biology, chemistry. They have math, earth science. You can search by grade level. You can search by device, what device you have in your classroom. You can also use a word search. I just put in gas laws. That's all the simulations that came up with that would be applicable to that. On a page, this is the picture of the simulations that you would see. On the bottom right corner of each simulation picture, you see if it runs Java, which is the little teacup with the heat waves coming up. That's what you need the desktops for. Flash, HTML5s, those will come out right away without needing any other install. Let's look at a sample lesson. The lesson topic, we're looking at the relationship between forces and motion. Some lesson objectives, I want the students to be able to come up with a mathematical sentence themselves to find the relationship between a net force and an object. And then students will also describe how net force affects motion and acceleration. So in this first part of the simulation, we have a tug-of-war going on between the blue people and the red people. And they take their mouse and put the blue and red people on either side. And you can click on to see what the sum of forces will be in newtons. And you will see, so 150 to the right, or 100 to the right, 150 to the left. And they see 50 sum of forces. Now we go on, get a little more technical. Now we're adding in a force, and we are not dealing with friction yet, but we're seeing how force relates to motion. So we have the speedometer at the top and seeing how much force, how many newtons we apply. We can also put on different objects like the fridge on there and change the mass. How does mass affect acceleration? We get a little more technical. We keep adding things to this. I should have said I did this successfully with grades 5 through 8. And I modified it just slightly to accommodate the learning levels. Now we have added on a G-meter to see what exactly the acceleration is. Again, just a little more detail. The nice thing is, if you're worried about information overload with your students, you can have them click on and off what things they should be looking at so they don't have 5 different gauges to be looking at. They can have clicked on exactly what they need. Here we've added on friction, so we have pretty much everything you have. Best thing about PhET, or one of the great things about the PhET website, is you don't have to worry about making things from scratch. Many teachers have already uploaded full lab activities, full lesson plans to the website that you can download, and a lot of them are in an editable format that you can edit and print for your own class to use. We're going to go through some examples now. This is math, obviously, looking at the relationship between area and perimeter. So students take squares from that little pail in the bottom, put them on there, and they can then make little shapes, and then they can relate perimeter with area. Coming up next, we have another math simulation. This is going to be a picture at the beginning of a lesson, or maybe for extra practice, where I've done factoring here, something that students use a lot in math. So you see at the bottom is the problem. What do I multiply together to get 30? And you have a table of multiplying different numbers together. So how many different combinations can you come up with? Now we've moved on to high school biology here, looking at how protein is made from DNA. And so unfortunately, this is more like a demonstration that you do with the class. This I probably wouldn't see as a lab activity, but you kind of see the animation of everything going in. And you still have to manipulate those different objects and do it in the right order to see how that protein is made. Switching over to chemistry now, something you might do freshman year of high school or 8th grade year. Just introducing balancing chemical equations. We saw that in the one text message one. They're just figuring out chemical equations. They can see the molecules and count the atoms on each side and make sure they are tallied up correctly. One of my favorites, looking at different models for the atom, kind of from top to bottom. We go from very older atomic models, the billiard ball, kind of maybe you harken back to those chemistry classes, all the way down to Schrodinger's model, and where we can see, bottom right hand, the spectrum of what photons are being emitted at what wavelengths. How do I use these simulations? Or how do you use them too? Introduce a new topic in a class, in a science or a math class. A standalone demonstration, kind of like that DNA simulation. As a lab activity, the lab activity that we went through, I've done with 5th through 8th grade very successfully. What I want to leave you with is science and math is a way of thinking. And I get that a question a lot, probably you do in science and math class. Why should I do this? Because it's not just facts and figures, it's a way of thinking. That's one thing that's kind of a theme we've been hearing in this tech conference is training our brains. So math and science is a way to do that. Hopefully these simulations make it easier for you to accomplish that in your classroom. Thank you.
Next up, we have a former professional disc golf player turned pastor, Dan Bondo.
Thank you. That's mostly true, probably a little overrated. I was amateur level. It was one summer, kind of a fun thing in college. Disc golf, sorry. Thank you. I'm Daniel Bondo. I'm at Grace in downtown Milwaukee, married with 3 kids and 1 on the way this next October, and I was going to just press the button. I needed the extra intro time. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Salesforce. It's especially for pastors, or if you want to go back home and tell your pastor at your congregation, feel free to do so. This is it's a database, basically, and if you were in sales, it'd be a way for you to track your relationship with a customer, much in the same way a pastor might track his relationship with a prospect and keep track of history and different things like that. One of the neat things about it is that, well, it's free. As you notice, it's all cloud-based. There are free accounts for nonprofit organizations. You get 10 users, and it has an app I'll tell you about later. And with the users, I asked them, what if I have volunteers doing the same task? Well, they can log in as different people, but using the same account if they're doing the same function. This is an example of a lead page. This is Wayne and Josie Palmer. And if you look at the upper right corner, I can track a whole bunch of details. I can customize this whole thing and what I'm tracking. But there's source and status that are neat features to use with Salesforce. This is a list of source that's on here, and it assigns them all a color. Basically, how did this person get in touch with our congregation? And so I can track, in a sense, over the course of a year, what the most popular ways that we were getting to know people through, and I can basically put them all in this pick list. This is an example of the status, that as somebody goes along and I'm following up on a first level visit, or I follow up and do long gospel, or we recruit them for a Bible information class, or they finish, you're basically putting all the steps between getting to first meet them and becoming a member on that status list and being able to use that later on. Customization is a key thing with Salesforce because you can customize all of the data, put in your own pick lists, your own checklists, your own text box fields. You can track activity, including worship attendance or specialty. You can customize all the different kinds of activity fields that you'd like. Here's an example of a list view where you can look at certain names that fit a number of criterion. And one example here is they're not just name only, they have some contact information. So it says in the upper left, all active and non-name only leads. And I could do it for campus ministry and get a list of all our college students with the click of a view. Campaigns, then, you can utilize those specific lists of targeted audience people, and then I can automate or trigger some emails that are sent. So if a group of people come to our farmers market in 2015, then I can send them an email, and maybe I send them a follow-up email later on, and it's all to that same group within our database. This is an example of what an individual prospect would have in their activity history. You can see Wayne and Josie have come to worship. We sent them some mass emails. I've sent a private email in there. And I can look back and remember the email conversation just by looking at this before I make another call. A good way to show how personal the follow-up is, rather than some, I don't remember who you are, but I'm calling. So you can set up a number of workflow triggers and automated tasks inside of Salesforce. And I wanted to let you know about that feature. If somebody finally gives you their email address, then it sends me an email. They have an email, and I can send them an email. I got your email, and I'm picking on you now. That kind of a thing. This is an example of a report where Salesforce has gotten smarter about its reports, where I can do 2 different kinds of criterion at once in a report. And it would display like this, where I have lead status, where some are in BIC, some are not yet, or whatever, but I also have the source. So I can tell our council, hey, these friends of members and relatives of members, upper left, those are the ones that are getting into BIC. It's those personal friendship evangelism that always does better than just your blast, friendship or farmer's market kind of a thing. You can integrate Salesforce into your email, whether it's Outlook or Gmail, and it'll sync with your contacts and your calendar and all that fun stuff to notify you or remind you to call somebody. Salesforce helps you monitor all of that activity and track it. Plus, it's built so that people can develop apps to use within Salesforce. And these apps are like in the thousands, and it's like a dream world to go and explore the apps that you can build into your own database that work for you. You see Gmail down on the bottom as something that you can incorporate into the whole thing. Comes as an app on your phone, and there are other apps that you can use that use your Salesforce data even though they're not produced by Salesforce. So this is one example of a way I can do it on my phone and log my call, and I can describe what happened on my visit without having to write it down and go home, type it in a computer or something else. Here's my favorite app for a phone, and that's called Roobic, R-O-O-B-I-Q. And it also has a mapping feature. So based on my location, I can see who the prospects are around me if I've got an extra half hour, and I can go visit a couple other prospects before I go home. This is an example of a contact form that you might have on your web page. And when somebody fills this out and hits a submit button, it automatically creates a lead for me in Salesforce, in the database. I don't have to re-enter that information. And it tells me that they're a new lead and I can contact them. And it sends them an email from me saying, thanks for getting in touch with us, and something like that. Just powerful tool. This is a Salesforce chatter. Inside your organization, your evangelism team or council, they could have accounts that you can talk to one another, alert people to a new lead that you want them to follow up on, or could you call this person? You can do that inside like this internal communications thing that Salesforce has among your users called Salesforce Chatter. What does some say about it? It's powerful. That can be intimidating, but you might have heard of it already yourself. You probably have a few members in your congregation who are using it at work, and they can sit down with you in an afternoon and work you through it. They love that it keeps growing, it keeps improving, and it's fully customizable, and did I say that it's free for 10 users? So it's kind of a dream world, and that's Salesforce. Again, I'm Daniel Bondo, and if you want to pass that name along to your pastor, feel free to do so. Thank you.
Next up, we have Kevin Hundley, a man who married his high school sweetheart, now for 21 years, and has a 16-year-old daughter. Did I get that right?
Correct, and I need your prayers and help because I'm teaching her to drive.
Mr. Hundley.
Yeah. Well, good evening, everybody. Kevin Hundley. I serve a congregation in Kenosha, Wisconsin, which is kind of unique. It's about 1,000 members, but it's one church at 2 sites, Kenosha and then also Summers, Wisconsin. We also have a grade school of about 85 kids, and I want to talk to you about technology and confirmation class tonight. So, when I was assigned out of seminary back in 1998, I was assigned to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. My wife turned to me and said, "Where's that?" And I said, "I'm not sure. I think it's next to Hershey," and it is. And I got a chance to sit down and get to know the congregation and have that first initial meeting with parents to say, when are we going to start confirmation class? What's the day? What's the time we're going to do that? And I got to find out we're dealing with a lot of busy families. And every date or time I threw out, I got the response, well, that's not going to work. That can't work. I can't make that day work. My kid's at some practice or some school event, or Susie's at a vocal lesson because she wants to sing in church. So some things I couldn't really argue with. Then there was Bobby. Bobby lived about an hour and 20 minutes from Harrisburg in Hamburg, Pennsylvania. So when are we going to have confirmation class with Bobby? He doesn't come every week to Sunday. When's that going to work out? Got to be the road warrior on that one for a little while. And it just got to be a chaotic situation. And maybe you've experienced that in ministry where you just kind of feel like, I'm trying to accommodate a bunch of people, I'm trying to help, but you're the one who ends up suffering and you don't feel like you're getting ahead at all. So fast forward to about 12 years ago, and I went to a new congregation, this time in Kenosha, Wisconsin, much larger congregation. But the same kind of situation, sat down with the confirmation parents, when can we do confirmation, date and time for public school confirmation? This can't work, that can't work, I don't know when that's gonna work in our schedule, and feeling like I'm in the same situation. So I decided there's gotta be a better way. So what I tried to figure out is how do we create confirmation class that's not dependent on a date or a time, that's more on demand, gives great instruction and uses some of the technology tools that we have to accomplish that. So I had a whole bunch of PowerPoints that went through with all of my confirmation lessons. So I sat down with those PowerPoints and I converted them into images. I dumped them into iMovie, and then from iMovie I basically did a voiceover for the confirmation slides and created a movie, a video for each of the lessons in the book that I was using. I was using the WELSTech Bivens confirmation material called Confirmed in the Faith. It's done really well, a great workbook for kids, so I didn't have to reinvent the wheel there, a lot of fill in the blanks. So basically, I had all of this information along with quizzes and tests, all of that in a nice little binder that I have. And so I had all of my material. I just needed to sit down with parents to say, hey, I want to teach your kids, but in a different way. And I needed their buy-in. And when they heard that it was not going to be dependent on a certain day or time, that they could do this at their leisure, when it worked into their schedule, and I'm still teaching them, they got excited about that. They also knew that confirmation needed to change a little bit. We had the same goals, though, the same goal of confirming their child, making sure that those baptized children of God understood God's promises and really realized what that meant for their life and the so what from that point forward. Also, it tied in with Luther's idea of confirmation instruction in the first place. Let's have parents be a part of that, teaching their kids. And so this really tied in with that goal. I don't want to give you that privilege and responsibility that God's given you and let you be about that. I'm here to assist you with that, not to just do it for you. So that created a whole hidden curriculum to our public school confirmation instruction. I wanted the parents to be involved. They had to be involved to share information with their kids. They needed to be an example. Didn't want them to be milk carton parents who were not involved in this. And so basically what happened was we linked all of the videos for the confirmation lessons to our homepage. There's a link at the bottom of our homepage that goes to a YouTube page that has a lesson, a video lesson for each of the lessons in the book. So a kid would grab his book, go sit down with the computer. I would teach them the lesson on the video. They would go through that lesson. If they missed something, they could always stop. They could rewind. They could go through it again if they missed something. Then they would tell their parents, I went through the lesson. I need some help with the review material. So parents would sit down with the kids, go through the review material, and then in the parent binder, they would have all of the quizzes for each of the lessons. Once they gave the kid the quiz, then they had the answer key, so that they corrected their kid's confirmation material and got instant feedback about how their child was doing, and that created a whole lot of discussion time they might not have otherwise. Where I fit in now is about every fourth lesson, there is a review section or a review test that happens. So I meet with the class about 6 times a year. Meet with parents and the kids. Everybody gets a chance to ask their questions. We go through some of the high points of the lessons. I give the kids a test, so I get instant feedback about how the kids are doing in class. Has this become confirmation nirvana? Not necessarily. Some parents would rather have me do all of the teaching and do all of the things that need to be done for confirmation instruction. Some kids, especially public school kids, have a hard time with memory work because they don't do a lot of that. But all in all, the feedback I've gotten from parents, and I poll them each year, is all in all, this is achieving some of those goals. It allows them to have quality confirmation instruction at a time that works for them, that's on demand. They really appreciate that. And I'm also seeing growth in a bunch of families that I might not see otherwise because they're involved in the process. The last cool thing about this is all of the videos that have to do with the 2-year series of Confirmed in the Faith is at our website. There's a link at the bottom. It's all free. It's all there for you to use. I need a 12-year-old to help me arrange all those YouTube videos so that they're in the right order. But we have families using this in Washington State. We have families using this in Guam. We have families in Indonesia that left Kenosha and have gone overseas and are using that material. And so God's using it, and please feel free to use it too.
Thank you very much.
I am Jim Ederman, but actually I'm channeling for a demon tonight. You probably know him. His name is Screwtape. Screwtape Letters. Over the years, Screwtape has moved on from mentoring demons to PowerPoint, helping Christians with PowerPoint. So he's got some things to say to you tonight about the value of PowerPoint complexity. PowerPoint, he's got 8 rules. How many of you do PowerPoint? Come on, you gotta help me out. Okay, then you probably already know my 8 rules of PowerPoint complexity. When you practice these rules, you are heroes. You are top of the heap PowerPoint presenters. People look at you and they know you know what you're doing. Do not listen to the PowerPoint gurus who say it's simplicity you need when you do PowerPoint. Do not even think about it. Say it with me. Do not even think about it. Here are my 8 rules. First one is fill those slides with as much text as you can. You guys, you Christians, you're a Christian, you're into stewardship. Good stewardship means you fill every point on that PowerPoint page. Every point. 12-point type, that's okay. People up in front can't read it, that's okay. You just fill it all up. Don't do this where you've got a nice picture, a little bit of text. Don't do that. Don't even think about it. Say it with me. Don't even think about it. You cram those slides full. Full, full, full. Now, the corollary to this one is number 2. And number 2 says, white space is the enemy. White space. You know, that means there's nothing there. There's a vacuum. And you know what vacuums do? They suck. Do not use white space. Once again, cram it all full. Couple of words, nice picture. Don't even think about it. Say it. Don't even think about it. White space is the enemy. Number 3 helps you to think, get into the minds of your audience. They like to think in riddles. Every PowerPoint slide, you should see your audience scratching their heads and saying, what's that about? Right? I have no idea. Especially when you're doing graphs. You know, you just put all that information up there, and they're thinking, well, what am I supposed to be focusing on? That's good PowerPoint. Don't even think about doing this, where you just highlight what you're talking about Instagram and it skews young, and you gray everything else out. Don't do that. That's bad PowerPoint. Number 4 is also as important as number 3, and that is that it's overrated. Organization is overrated. You guys who are pastors, you learned in the seminary, I mean, you're supposed to do your text study, then you do this expanded outline, and then you write your sermon. Guys, look, I know that about a week into the ministry, you just sat down and wrote the sermon. You didn't do the study, you didn't do the outline, you just wrote the sermon. Same thing with PowerPoint. You just start with the PowerPoint. You start putting slides together, right? And you put a bunch of junk up there. Don't do this where you've got a nice, this just annoyed me no end to have to put a PowerPoint together with 8 points and one after the other. That's not the way you do PowerPoint. Make sliduments. Microsoft Word, you make documents. And if you've got more stuff to say, well, you just add a couple more pages. Same thing with PowerPoint. If you got more stuff to say, you just add a couple more slides, or you smush stuff more into the slide. Don't do this kind of thing where it's kind of like a billboard. You're going 70 miles an hour down the highway, you see a billboard, a couple of words on it, nice picture, and you get it. Don't do this. Your audience wants to be wondering, what in the world is this guy doing? What's all that stuff up on the slide? Sliduments. Number 6, be creative. And you see, for me, creative means that you don't just fill the slides with text, but all of the curlicues and the different kinds of fonts that you can use, especially the ones that are hardest to read. Those are the ones you need to be using in PowerPoint. Those are the greatest ones. Don't do this kind of... You guys know that PowerPoint has these graph lines so that you can put your text on the same place on every slide, pictures in the same place? If you don't know it, don't look for them. That's not good PowerPoint. Don't even think about it. Let the things jump around on the slides. All the bells and whistles of PowerPoint. Hey, and there's a bunch of them, like these animations that just slowly come in. Your audiences just love that, where they have to wait to see what's going to come up next before they can pay any attention to you. Whatever the noises are, use them on every slide. Don't listen to the gurus who just say, oh, just a pinch, you know, every now and again, and not on every PowerPoint slide. Don't listen to them. Listen, don't even think about it. Say it. Don't even think about it. And finally, number 8, this really sums them all up. Complexity is the easiest. PowerPoint is for you, the presenter. It's not for the audience. The spotlight is on you. You are the hero. And so build PowerPoint so it's your crib notes. And, you know, if you're in the wrong place, you just kind of back up. I mean, that's okay. It's for you. It's not for the audience. Don't care about them. It's about you. Well, hey, there you have it. My 8 rules of PowerPoint complexity. And I guarantee you, come on, slide, there you go. My 8 rules of PowerPoint complexity, and I guarantee you, if you follow my 8 rules, every time you present to an audience, they are going to say, wow, that was one heck of a conversation, of a presentation. You have my word on it. I'm Screwtape.